welcome back to my channel. I am the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the Fighting Fantasy Gamebook series. This review is going to give you a quick look at this title with its book number, a read of the blurb, we'll check out the plot and the locations for this book, and then I'll go through some of the game mechanics and the adventure sheet, look at the artwork, which I'll run through this video, talk about my own likes and dislikes, any fun facts I may have found, any errors, and then we'll finish with a summary and score for Vault of the Vampire. This is book 38, and it was by Keith Martin, aka Carl Sargent. This one came out, like 1989, I think it was, so I was 12 years old when this one came out. And the cover here was by good old Les Edwards, absolute classic Les Edwards cover. But the internal stuff, the internal illustrations were by Martin McKenna. So we got Martin McKenna on board for this Hammer-esque kind of romp, fantasy vampire romp. So the blurb for this one is: you are a hardy adventurer and have journeyed to the icy mountains of Mauristatia in search of great wealth and fortune, but what you find there makes your blood run cold. You discover by chance the terrible secret of the local villagers. You can free them from the evil tyranny of the bloodthirsty Count, or will you succumb to a horrifying fate? So nice straightforward blurb there, just to give you a little taste of what you're in for in this one. Now the plot and the locations in this book. So you arrive at this small village in the province of Mauristatia, I think is how you pronounce it. That's in the old world, part of Titan. And you're sent by some of these villagers that live there to Count Heydrich to rescue a girl who was kidnapped by a vampire. The evil Count Heydrich. He's like the head vamp in this adventure, and the aim is, to kill the Count. Essentially, you can find all these various members of the Heydrich family in his castle, like Katrina Heydrich, who's the evil sister of the Count, who is actually like 70 years old or something, and she drinks the blood of virgins, as you do, to keep that youthful look. So we've got her. And we've also got Wilhelm Heydrich. He's the insane cousin of the Count. But after killing the Count, you must also destroy Katrina Heydrich, because she was kind of scheming to kill the Count anyway, all along, so that she could be the Countess. So there you got kind of a little twist in the plot for this one. So you're drawn to the old world's region of Mauristatia. You spend the night in this inn, like I say, called the Heart's Blood. So a suitably sinister named inn that you would stay in. Kind of harks back to that kind of Hammer horror again, that kind of Romanian-based village with a nice little tavern where you can stay. And everyone seems a little bit on edge. And eventually this old biddy comes up to you and tells you about the local Count. Has been abducting all these virgins of late. You couldn't get away with that these days, could you? So the surrounding area is also afflicted by these missing girls, and her granddaughter is actually one of them. Nastasia is the latest girl to go missing. So the granddaughter of this woman is giving you the lowdown, and you learn that the Count is obviously evil, and that his Castle Heydrich, is not really the sort of place you'd want to frequent. So of course you go for it. It's your challenge. You go to rescue Nastasia, and this black carriage shows up outside the tavern, and from there the adventure sort of follows a traditional romp, gets you to the castle. You make your way through all the 3 layers or levels of this castle, gathering information, collecting all the items that you need to kill vampires. And finally, you get to the crypt. At the end, you locate Count Heydrich, and you've got to defeat him. But there is a twist. So this is not just your beat the boss plot line. You got to chat to all these non-player characters that you can meet, including 4 members of the Heydrich family. So that's quite a nice dynamic. The Heydrich family, they're really well described, really well detailed in this adventure. So you've got Katrina, who we've talked about, very vampish, typical seductive type woman that you get in these books or in these movies, is trying to bump off her brother so that she can be the head vampire. You've got Wilhelm, who's kind of lost his mind. You've got Gunther, who's like the sage figure, kind of good, neutral, evil allegiance. It's a little bit ambiguous, I quite like that. And you've got Siegfried, who's like the previous head of the Reiner family. And he was murdered actually by the Count, and his grave was desecrated as well. So he's got a bit of an axe to grind and could be a good source of help in this game book. So if you love your Hammer horror and you like your Chris Lee and your Peter Cushing, this book is for you. Now, location-wise, we are back on Titan. And if you look at the map here, you can see obviously the old world is where we're going to be based, but you've got Alancia and you've got Cool as well. But it kind of fits, the story kind of fits with the old world. If it was going to be anywhere, it would be there, wouldn't it? So that's where we are. And if we go in closer on the old world, we got Mauristatia here. And if we go in even closer on Steve Luxton's map, you can see a cool little depiction of the inn in the south there and the 2 paths that lead up to Castle Heydrich. So, what a brilliant opening. Right, so the game mechanics and the adventure sheet for Vault of the Vampire. So this book is quite unusual. It has this new feature. It's got a faith score, and it's a 1d6 plus 3 to give you that. So unlike the usual 3 scores, your skill, stamina, luck, the faith score can exceed its initial value. So that's quite a nice little touch. So your faith is kind of tested throughout the book in a kind of similar fashion to testing your luck. And you can also get certain afflictions as well in this adventure, like lycanthropy, of course, which can be acquired, through performing certain actions or visiting certain places. And if it's not treated, it can lead to sort of problems later on and potentially death. So as far as I'm aware, none of the afflictions are entirely untreatable. So if you do get bitten by a wolf, you'll be okay if you do the right things and make the right choices. As well as these new features, Vaults has a good use of puzzles, lots of cheat proofing. You need to know, certain hidden references before you can progress, so it's quite good. Stop you from cheating. And there's a few checkpoints asking if you have certain items as well. So they've got lots of mechanics in here to kind of keep you on that straight and narrow path. As is normal with vampires, you have to destroy Heydrich's spare coffins. But you only have to smash up 2 of the 3, which is just as well, because one of them is really tough to find. So to help, there's lots of kind of holy water vials lying around. There's 2 magic swords. There's lots of places to kind of regain your stamina as well. So there's lots of help. You start with your 10 provisions as usual, on top of the food and drink that you can find along the way, which will recover stamina. And it's quite balanced. Good use of combat. So some of the combats are quite easy actually to begin with. So it's good progression. The final showdown, however, with Heydrich is extremely difficult. He is skill 13, stamina 21. But doesn't end there, because you have to fight him a second time. So when you get him down to 4 or less, I think it is, he has like a second wind, and he gets 8 extra stamina back and has another pop at you. But if you can beat him, there follows a third combat, which you weren't expecting, with Katrina, who immediately sets about trying to, claim her birthright. However, Katrina is weaker at skill 10, stamina 10, I think she is. So there's several weapons that you can use that will shave off some of Heydrich's stats, before you get into too much of a fight. So those are required. So you need to use your ingenuity and any items or weapons, special weapons that you may have picked up to make him less powerful before you face him. So that's a cool little feature, and it involves you kind of directly influencing the outcome rather than just rolling dice all day. And getting back to the faith score, it's quite a hard aspect of the book. The faith tests are quite common, and the key discoveries rely on the outcome of some of these faith rolls as well. So they are used a lot, but they are important, and obviously the higher the better in terms of the score. You are more likely to lose this game due to a failed faith roll than really anything else, I found anyway. Just a matter of opinion. But rolling under or over your faith score can kind of have a positive outcome. As much as, if you think about it, too much belief in yourself might be just as bad as not having enough belief. So there's been a lot of thought put into this mechanic. So there's that. There's this one is one of the better extra stats. Sometimes you find these extra stats are kind of shoehorned in just to be different, but this one really makes good use of itself and is relevant to the story as well. So well done. Well done, Mr. Carl Sargent. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the other two extra elements, the afflictions and the magic. Magic really only appears in the final act, and it's not really essential to victory. Rather, it just kind of makes things easier for you if you can get them. So on meeting some of the non-player characters who offer the ability to use these spells, you basically roll a dice 3 times, and the numbers you roll dictate, the 3 spells that you're going to get. And mostly they're kind of a mix of sort of combative and defensive type bonuses. The afflictions are a bit strange. There's only really the lycanthropy affliction that really plays a part in this adventure. It kind of gives you, I think you get it from a werewolf, obviously, but wherever I think the only place it really impacts on you is when you sort of climb a staircase and you pass this window and the moonlight can shine on you. And I think that's literally the only place, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think that's really the only place where it can have an impact on you. So it felt a little bit underused, but yeah. There's a really cool chest puzzle on 1, 2, 3. I'll read it to you, and that's what this graphic is here. So you get to this chest, and it says, there is a group of obscure runes on the plaque. You manage to decode them into letters, but they don't make sense. You guess that they have to spell out some phrase hidden within these letters to release a magical lock on the chest, and so release the treasure within. Whatever it is in there must be of great value to be protected like this. The letter reads, and that's what this graphic is there, I'm not going to read that. Simple, isn't it? When you have decoded the transcription, you will know the number referred to. Turn to that paragraph with the same number to claim the treasure inside the chest, which you can do by whispering the name of the person referred to. So that's quite cool. And once you decipher it, you'll get a reference, which by memory I think is 250, and you can get all the goodness inside that chest. So some really nice features, nice puzzles, all scattered through this book. That leads on nicely to the adventure sheet. So, like I said, you've got your skill, stamina, and luck. You've got your faith score, which we've touched on, your spells, and your afflictions as well. You've got your items of carried equipment, which there aren't too many in this one. You've got your provisions, any treasure, and any notes, where you can kind of keep a record of all the coffins you've smashed up, and your chest puzzle. Actually, I think it was 350, I think, is that chest puzzle answer. Not 250 if you're a nerd and you want to make a note of that one. But yeah, otherwise it's a pretty straightforward adventure sheet. Okay, so the artwork for Vault of the Vampire. Now the colour map on the inside, which I'll put up again, is by Steve Luxton. Very cool image of the castle in the north there, and the little tavern that you're in, and the 2 possible paths leading to that castle. So of course the carriage takes you up the road, but you can go through this forest here as well, which is the way you should go if you don't want to miss some items that will be very useful later on. Now, Martin McKenna's internal art is the obvious choice when it comes to illustrations for vaults. Perhaps Fighting Fantasy's most sort of Hammer-esque of all the illustrators, really. It really captivates you in a way only Martin McKenna can. Really suits this genre and this adventure as well. So what a great choice, Martin McKenna. The cover also, you can see that there. So Les Edwards is back. Really striking cover. You got that brilliant portrayal of the head vampire right there. This red-eyed kind of hideous face and that classic V in blood red for the title. Yeah, so very cool cover. And as always, I've got a fave picture, which I will put up here. And I'll read the reference. It's actually the final reference, so the final illustration that you get to in this book. So this picture here of this of Katrina, once you bully her into submission, she starts to decompose. The lifeless body of the would-be ruler of Castle Heydrich falls to the floor. There is no hideous shriek, like the soul-rending cry of the Count dispatched to hell, but simply the choking sigh of an evil woman meeting her just end. And as she falls, her appearance changes. The illusion of her youth disappears, and a wizened old crone lies at your feet. Nastasia gasps in horror and looks away, burying her face in your chest. You put an arm around her and lead her slowly up the stairs, away from this evil place. And turning as you leave the crypt, you see the shade of Siegfried standing behind you, waving just farewell. At last I can rest in peace, you sense him feeling. And you wave back as he makes a last gesture of blessing upon a warrior as brave as, but more successful than he was. Yeah, so it's a really cool ending, and sometimes you get these reference 400 which are a bit rushed, but this one kind of makes it all feel worthwhile, and you get that classic image to finish on as well. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, my likes and dislikes for Vault of the Vampire. So Vaults expresses vivid descriptive prose all throughout the whole story. This gets a successful kind of creation of an immersive atmosphere. Really great environment within the Castle Heydrich. Kind of reminds you of those Dracula. If you've read Dracula, the way Castle Dracula is depicted in that story, it kind of reminds me of that. Keith Martin effectively utilises all those classic vampire kind of tropes and folklore, making the setting real believable and really engaging as well. And you get a good balance of the puzzles, all the riddles and traps as well, and all the combat that's in there. So there's not too much, and what there is doable, right up until the end, of course. The puzzles are logical, really well constructed, and rather than sort of random luck based, these ones require a bit more thought to overcome, which is always a good thing. The vaults generally offers multiple sort of valid combinations of items and paths to successfully complete this adventure, and kind of enhances that replay value as well. It's got really good lastability, this book. You keep coming back to it time and time again. It's relatively forgiving for wrong turns. So if you do make a mistake or you miss something, you can be sort of directed back on, so you get a second chance. That allows that kind of backtracking. I do like the fact that you can revisit places without feeling that you kind of spoke to this person before and you've already beaten up this one, and it doesn't fall into that trap like Forest of Doom did. However, with Vaults, it's considered quite a kind of balanced experience. The final confrontation with the vampire Count Heydrich is noticeably tough and requires a good strategic kind of method to beating him. You can't just go in there with your arms windmilling. You really do have to think about it, which is good for a change, as well. It's a tough battle, and you do make use of all those collected items that you have. The main criticism, though, is the original publication sort of concerns a significant number of kind of proofreading and reference errors. So there was a few things wrong with this, which we'll touch on, that made the book a little bit tricky for people until, of course, the internet showed up and we could all find out where the issues were. They kind of needed that proofreading a little bit more than it maybe got. Some render it a little bit broken, but I don't think it's broken. But yeah, go online to find those corrections. Vault Vampire also had a slightly flat afflictions mechanic like we touched on earlier. Maybe it was introduced quite late in the game, I don't know. The same goes for that magic edition as well. But otherwise, it's tip-top. Right, some fun facts for this book. There was an interview with Les Edwards, and he says that Vault of the Vampires turned out to be one of those classic images. I can't say why exactly, it's just one of those cases where everything works the way that was intended. It's a pretty traditional vampire, but maybe that's part of its strength. It's a simple and dramatic image and very direct. It was a big influence on vampire paintings that I did subsequently. I remember that the publications asked me to make the girl's breasts smaller, which I did reluctantly. I suppose this was in the days before silicone was all pervasive. Yeah, so I think it was in the sequel to this book, Revenge of the Vampire, by the same author. Some of those images in that book were doctored slightly to also deal with some of those voluptuous women. Well, we'll get to that one day. The location of Mauristatia was reused by Jonathan Green in Howl of the Werewolf. Although this was set in one of its sort of provinces, I think Lupravia, I think it was called. The book had a sequel, like I just mentioned, Revenge of the Vampire, and this was sort of the only real direct sequel to a game book, as far as I know, in this Puffin range. Those were really the only fun facts I can come up with. But like I said, there were a couple of errors in this book. So each row of monster encounter boxes on page 19, where the adventure sheet is, they appear to be a copy of the adventure sheet's skill, stamina and luck boxes. So instead of containing like the entries for the monster skill and stamina values. So if you can see, you see there, you've got yours, and then the encounter ones are just a replication of yours as well. So I think that's probably just a slip up by the publishers, I guess. I don't know really. But yeah, there's that. So something to look out for. I'm not sure if this is I'm not sure if it's an error, but it was corrected in, or if it was corrected in any later reprints. But yeah, reference 93 is missing the if you have none of these option. So you must turn to 22 to kind of correct this error. So easily fixed. And in reference 123, the first word of the inscription of that plaque that I mentioned earlier reads GFG FHO instead of GFQ FHO. So if you've read this book and you know that puzzle, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. If you haven't, then you won't have the faintest clue. Interestingly, the accompanying illustration appears to be kind of accurate with the Q. So they got the Q in the illustration, so at least that word. But the error was corrected in the 5th reprint. I think also on reference 284, it kind of states instant failure because it's not possible to kill the Count without a magic sword. But actually, if you use the right items and you roll the dice well, it's possible that you can kill him without the sword. So, yeah, and then you only need to sort of stake him a couple of times to finish him off and put him back in his coffin. And the last one, reference 350, it has a notable error. It reads, if your luck score was 12, your skill score is now 13. So obviously that is a reference to luck, and it should have read skill instead. But otherwise, it's a solid book. Not too many errors. Right, so a summary and score for Vaults of the Vampire. Like I said earlier, if you like your horror and you like your Hammer especially, this is an absolute winner. But even if you don't like that, if you're not into that horror genre, this book is brilliant. I mean, this is one of Keith Martin's better books, actually. And, he just, and like I said before, they just get better and better. You know, I do miss Keith Martin's books, actually. It's a shame, such a shame that he passed before his time, because he had a lot left in him. And I truly believe that had he still been around, he'd be writing for Scholastic right now. So yeah, an epic addition to the horror kind of genre. Vaults of the Vampires, that kind of classic setting, traditional setup with your towers in each corner of your building, and kind of adventure flows in a kind of linear fashion. Lots of corridors, doors to open, lots of stairs to go up and down. And Keith Martin likes to give an open world to Rome in a lot of his books, and it's just as evident here. Even though it's kind of self-contained in the castle, you do get the feeling that you can go back on yourself and wander around and kind of explore as much as you like. And it's possible to kind of visit every single location in your read-through as well. So quite a change there from your average game book. Now, provided you follow a certain sequence, you can pretty much check out the whole castle. And it's clear where you need to head, but you can backtrack, like I say, in certain places. So if you happen to visit a particular series of rooms in a wrong order, all is not over. So yeah, very fair, and even with a linear path, it still works really well. So if you get led past like a key location that you have to visit to complete the book, there's no kind of wrong turn and it's over feeling about Vault of the Vampire. Now, this one, the vampire folklore is ever present, as you would expect it to be. It's right from the start of the adventure, and it stays really focused on the main subject and the goal that you have to perform all the way through. The atmosphere is very dark, very gothic, and you're told that the castle kind of feels evil, yet also good at the same time. So it's almost as if some of the characters you meet, they're good, they're inherently good, but there's this evil sort of underlying as well. And Martin gives a kind of wonderful Victorian feel to this setting, that Mauristatia is slightly less archaic than most places in Titan. And if you ever read Bram Stoker's Dracula, like I said, or you kind of love Hammer, you will feel right at home with this classic game book. There are constant nods to this kind of genre, with Katrina's method of bathing in virgin's blood. That's kind of taken from Countess Dracula, if you've seen that film. And the clothing of Heydrich, with his widow peak, it's a very clear nod to Christopher Lee and his portrayal of Dracula. The Hammer overtones are a real plus point for me. One of the reasons why this book's such a winner, really. Rarely did the Fighting Fantasy go for the horror genre, but when it did, it usually succeeded really well. I mean, of course, you've got Steve Jackson's House of Hell, absolute classic, and that was a modern day, but of course this is a much sort of medieval setting, so works just as well. And the book is fast-paced, sort of very rewarding experience. Vaults came at a time when the series was sort of becoming slightly bland, can I say? But it would have been brilliant no matter where it fell in the series, so yeah. Hats off to Keith Martin. Now, set in Titan, it reads as a kind of familiar to somewhere on Earth, like Romania or somewhere. And this helps to put some sort of understandable perspective, on the story. Steve Jackson and Keith Martin both wrote great Gothic horror books, but there was others like Stephen Hand and Jonathan Green, who also succeeded in giving us that kind of traditional and also modern horror adventures. Vaults is considered one of the best books in the series, called a masterpiece of horror game book writing. I would also agree with that. Its engaging atmosphere, kind of intelligent design and replayability really make this book stand out. A proper standout title actually for fans of the series, but also for the horror genre. So due to its popularity and lack of sort of modern reprints, the original copies can be quite valuable actually, quite a collector's item. If you go on eBay, this book is it's worth quite a bit of money. So yeah, if you sum all that up, I would give this book a stonking 8 out of 10 for Vault of the Vampire. So yeah, that's my review of this classic book. I hope you liked it. Maybe give it a thumbs up if you did, but give me a comment either way. Let me know what your thoughts on this book were. If you like sort of Keith Martin's work, if you like Martin McKenna's work, what you liked about the book, what you didn't like, and maybe share the site if you think there's someone else who might also like it. The next book I'm going to do is book 39, which is Luke Sharp's Fangs of Fury. So the last book by Luke Sharp coming up. Take care until then, and I'll see you in the next review.